Testing, testing. Are you all there? Welcome to this very first SpeedAdmin webinar about online tuition. And thank you everybody that are participating today or that will see this on a later time. It's really exciting. We're a bit nervous. We've never done anything like this with this setup, having guests in and all of this. We've done several of webinars before around functionalities in SpeedAdmin, but this one, it's a new way for us to doing it. And fortunately, I'm not alone. I got a very, very good friend of mine behind the technique and will also be joining us from some questions and so on. Dan, you got over here. And Dan, are you all ready?
All good.
And Dan's been doing a great technical setup here. So I guess, like you've seen, a lot of music teachers have been really gotten into the online setup throughout this Corona period or COVID-19. So has Dan, and he's really done an amazing job with our technical stuff here. So I hope everything is going through smoothly and you can hear me fine. Otherwise, we need to blame Dan. But no, it's really amazing, and we're looking forward to today. Today's agenda. Well, first of all, just covering why are we now doing a webinar like this here in SpeedAdmin, and then we got a great list of guest stars lined up for you, or guests at least. So first of all, we're going to visit with Mads, who's a music teacher here in Denmark. Then we're going to go a trip to Sweden to talk to one of the now co-owners of SpeedAdmin, Fredrik. Then we're going to go to England, UK, across the channel, and talk to Ali, who's done an article in Cambridge about online lessons, how that's gone in England, and hear her about what she's expecting of the future over there. And then finally, we're going to get back to Denmark and go to Aarhus, where we're going to visit with Lars Ole in Aarhus Music School, where they are doing a really interesting project along with a lot of other music service here in Jutland. So really looking forward to all of this. So let's just kick it off. And finally, well, of course, we'll have some questions. You can write us in the chat. You need to be logged into YouTube to write us in the chat, but you're very, very welcome to write there. Also, if there's something that you like or you disagree, please comment throughout the webinar with anything that you could pitch in with. We hope to hear from you in the chat. Definitely, that would be great to get some feedback there. First of all, why SpeedAdmin? We're doing this this admin system for music and culture schools or art schools throughout Northern Europe. We also have the teaching platform where you can do online tuition and so forth. So why are we now suddenly doing an online webinar that has nothing to do with our product as such? It could be anything else. It could be talking about Zoom. We could be talking about Teams meetings and so on. Well, first of all, I guess we've been really busy. A lot of people have asked for more of what we're delivering in these times. So we've been behind our screens where we normally are. So nothing has really changed that much on our side. Of course, we haven't been able to come out and visit all of our great customers. But all in all, we've been very fortunate. So we want to celebrate because we're really amazed about how music teachers and culture schools, art school teachers, all in all, have handled with this all the lockdowns and restrictions and so forth. So first of all, we want to celebrate what all of you out there have actually achieved within the last year. Also, next, we would like to inspire, because some of you might be a bit, as we're talking about the corona fatigue, we're a bit tired of that screen, so are we here, always having all these meetings on screen, not meeting with the students and so forth. But hopefully with this webinar, we can inspire you a little bit to keep going and perhaps also take some of the experiences you had throughout the corona and bring it into your future and the way that you're going to be working with your tuition, and also perhaps some more online tuition in the future. And finally, we want to prepare you for that. We want to have a look into the future, tech-wise, teaching or tuition method-wise, and also trends and where are the music service, art schools, where are they actually heading right now? What are the future going to bring us? How this is going to influence the whole situation, all the lockdowns here, and what we've learned, how is that going to influence on the future music and art school? So, all in all, let's go together to beat the corona and keep the music playing. This is what this webinar is all about. We'll do some follow-up webinars. I'll talk about those as we go through. So the idea here is this is just the first. It's inspiration webinar, the first here. So it's fairly short pitches from our guest stars. But it'll be followed up by several webinars, and we can tell you that the first one will be the 8th of April, where you're going to meet this next guest, or our first guest now. And our first guest is Mads Møller Jacobsen. And Mads is a great guy. We're really happy that Mads would join us today. He's a drum teacher, freelance musician as well. He's doing a lot of music projects, and he's working for Aabenraa and Haderslev Music School. Now, he's really gone into it. He's gone full Monty on his tech equipment. You can see that in just a minute. And we hope that he can perhaps inspire some of you with some of the technical setup, some of the possibilities that you can do. So he just want to give you us a little tease, and then 8th of April, you can meet Mads again and have a further look into his setup. How could you do a light setup? How can you do the big setup so you can develop even more on your technical things? But I think it's about time we now welcome Mads. So Mads, are you there? Hello, Mads. Technique is working so far. Could you say something?
Hello.
And I can hear you as well. Great. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Very good, thank you. And we're excited to have you here on this webinar. We're really glad that you're on for it. Now, you're going to give us some talks about your technical setup, and also just a walk through some of the how you worked with your students. And as it's probably going to be a bit tech, I'm going to leave the interview or the questions to Dan. I hope that's going to be okay. So Dan, get Dan on the screen here.
Hey, Mads.
Hello.
And again, thank you for participating. It's really nice that we can have this nerdy tech talk, or maybe only a glimpse of it today. But anyway, yeah. Mads, could you give us a short intro on how you have progressed through this Corona period? Been throwing out to online tuition, taking your choice, on going next to all in. Please tell about your journey.
Yeah, well, after the shutdown on the 11th of March last year, I'm in 2 music schools. I'm in Haderslev and Aabenraa, and we were instructed to at some point continue the lessons online, solo lessons. And at first I thought, well, I'm gonna be teaching live drums online. I don't have the equipment at all, so it was terrifying. So I actually started out sending videos to my students, individual constructed videos, and I passed it to them through, I think it was Dropbox, a separate link for each student, and well, then they could receive their lessons and in that way. And yeah, it was kind of a scarce communication because I had to get some videos from them, and the range was pretty wide. Some of them, a few, sent I don't know how many and how long videos. They really grew, and some I'd never really heard from. We were communicating, but video-wise or lesson-wise, I didn't really catch them. So, well, not such a good experience.
So what happened? Then you changed to like online live tuition, and did that make a difference?
I'd say I progressed in a video step, another video step, because in the beginning I was filming with my GoPro camera and a Zoom recorder to catch I teach drums, so
oh yeah,
it's a massive sound. So I chose the video and then the separate Zoom recorder, and then I progressed to using OBS, open source video studio.
Broadcaster source system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And well, then I could use my my interface, and I have quite a setup. I'll be going into that later. It's massive, but the video was still via webcams, and it wasn't that good, and it was still not live but recorded, and same thing with the Dropbox link, and not very good experience. So at some point we were allowed to meet with our students at the music schools. That was a relief, but when we got shut down in the fall of 2020, we were instructed to continue the lessons, and then I chose to go live, simply because of the connection with the students. I wasn't really
keeping it up.
Yeah, because I thought I was gonna lose some, and I wasn't really into that, neither with the students or the music schools.
We have heard that concern from many schools, actually, that they were afraid of losing students during the corona lockdown. And that's also the reason why we're here today, because we want to get wiser on which actions have been taken in the culture schools, and you have taken one action for sure. So please, can you tell what were your biggest wow experience through this time? Did you have an eye-opener situation or an experience you want to share?
I think the live video makes it possible to make the video, implement the video in the lessons much quicker. So now when I teach, I teach via Zoom, and when I go live, I can make a video just by clicking, and then I can dispatch it afterwards. But it's so easy to document the lessons, and well, sometimes it calls for a few minutes of video, and I actually do some supplementary videos, just recorded in Zoom, and then put on YouTube. I keep them hidden, but it's really very much on not that much post work.
Exactly. Yeah, I see.
But that's really a new option that suggests that the students are not really relying on notes or making videos by themselves. I can actually just say, do you want me to record this, and then I can do it.
Exactly. So it's like having a handheld recorder at your palm of your hand when you're educating. Yeah. It's fantastic.
And the video is good, and the sound is good. Well, what it is.
So I could be very curious. Do you have an experience of your students practicing more, advancing more due to this kind of education, or do you really miss the analog approach, or do you see some kind of merged teaching methods post-corona, or can you please give a short glimpse of what you're thinking about that?
I see some possibilities, especially with the video. But the main thing is that the students needs to feel that we're connecting, and some of them are, well, it depends on the age also, in my experience. Some of them can motivate themselves, and some of them really are difficult to motivate, and especially online, it's very difficult. And sometimes it can just turn into a long talk about why we didn't practice this week.
Yeah, of course.
And then
actually,
you have you have to just take care of them and respect that they don't have maybe the same enthusiasm because it's online and because they don't have the physical contact or
exactly.
Whatever.
Actually, Mads, we have a guest later on in this webinar talking about a really, what can you say, systematic approach to what happens when you move education out of the analog classroom and into the virtual classroom. So I think you're not alone at all.
No.
So maybe you would stay put and
I will.
And look for more. And Mads, I'm really looking forward to the next webinar, which we are actually launching on the 8th of April at 11 o'clock Danish time, where we are talking a lot more about your technical setup. We will also have 2 other teachers that have chosen a different approach, and then we will get really nerdy and coming up with tips and tricks on how to get great recordings, great flow on your online tuition. So for now, Mads, I will just send a huge thanks, and I'm looking really forward to seeing you again on the 8th of April.
Yeah, as a drummer, could we please have a look again on that amazing rig that you set up?
My rack? Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Actually, I run two computers. It's overkill, but yeah.
Just because you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at a lot of nice outboard, Focusrite, ISA, preamp, and oh yeah. That would be a great next time.
Yeah, it will.
I hear a lot of drooling.
Yeah. Fantastic, Mads. Thank you a lot for today, and see you on the 8th of April.
Definitely. Thank you.
See you.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Matt. And if now you're wearing the hat, I should be wearing the hat and taking it off for you. Really respect the work your whole setup there, and the work you're doing there with the students, and also some of your considerations about getting the student in focus and understand their level of enthusiasm and so on. That brings us a bit into our next area that we're going to be talking about, the teaching methods. What thoughts should you have when you're doing online tuition, both with some of the possibilities, but also some of the challenges. We're going to have a separate webinar on that as well later in April. Date haven't been completely set, but that will probably be mid or late April. We're going to be doing a webinar on teaching methods and possibilities around online tuition. But for now, we're going to have a visit from PlayAlong, not just our good friends, but I would actually say family now. It's going to be Fredrik Österberg. Now, Fredrik, he is one of the founders of PlayAlong, and now, as we now merge together SpeedAdmin and PlayAlong, now also one of the co-owners of SpeedAdmin PlayAlong. We're kind of using both names still. So, and he's going to talk about the flipped classroom, which is one of the tuition or teaching methods that are really used and very helpful in online tuition. So let's hear if Fredrik is on the line. There he is. Hello, Fredrik, and welcome to the studio.
Hello, and thank you for that, Thomas. Nice to be here.
Great that you would take the time to just give it a little introduction. And Fred, I know you've spoken in a lot of places, especially in Sweden, about the flipped classroom and some of how online and digitalization can help the music schools. So I think I'm just going to leave the scene for you to just take it away.
Thank you, Thomas. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, my name is Fredrik Österberg, and I'm a percussion teacher living in Stockholm, Sweden. And I've worked with IT since 2002 in different way in the schools of the arts, as you say in Sweden, Kulturskola, music services. And it all started with this yellow DVD, Play Drums, in Swedish, Play. And that was how our journey started back in 2002, and that was before YouTube and Facebook was around. We tried lots of different methods with our students in kulturskolor and schools of the art. And my favorite one is the flipped classroom. That's a method that was designed or invented by two American chemistry teachers called Aaron Sams and Jonathan Bergman. And from my point of view, that's a perfect method that combines our long tradition as a music teacher with the way that students and young people are using the internet to learn all sorts of things. And we are combining those two words with the flipped classroom. And the flipped classroom actually starts with a video lesson. And later on, you have the ordinary physical lesson, or you can have a lesson on the web. That's up to you, depending on Corona or not Corona, I suppose. And the best thing, I think, with the flipped classroom is that it extended the way that we could learn. The students have the teacher with them back home. And we also have saves time on the actual lesson. And we play more drums and talk less, and I think that's a very good thing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we could also focus more on the problems that the students have. Like, okay, I understand the video lesson, I could play to it back home, everything worked really well, but this in bar number 28, that was quite hard. Could we look into that one? So we use the time better, in a better way than me speaking the same thing all over again and again. So I think that's very good as well.
So just to fully understand, so the first thing is that you actually give the material, you give the either video, or it could be a score, it could be the material that the student should be working on before they actually go to their first, or that they're to their lesson, and then you work with the actual. So you don't give them an introduction, saying, now we're going to play this together and I'll show you everything from the beginning. You kind of let them explore from the beginning themselves, and then they come to the teaching room and
yes.
get corrected.
Yeah. So the lessons always start with a video lesson online, and that's pre or post Corona, it doesn't matter. So you always start with a video lesson at home. So you need to have a video content, or you have to use another teacher's lessons if you find something you really like, but that's the start of it. So the student go home, log into the learning management system, the platform, and watch a video lesson in advance, and then they show up on the drum lesson in my case, and we play more and talk less, and I focus more on students' thoughts and ideas.
So like Mats was saying, he was doing a tuition for a student, and then he's playing something and say, well, should I just record this for you? I think a lot of us use that. We record something for the students that they can use after the lesson, but you actually record it in advance, give it to the students, and then they come prepared already for the first lesson on that specific thing. Exactly.
And that's how I think that students are using the net to do all stuff of things, learning drums and guitar and so on. And now we combine the way that the students are using the net with us, the professional teacher at the music service. So I think that's the best of two worlds. So, yeah.
So if I'm thinking about some of the concerns here, I could imagine some teachers might be concerned, well, they're going to get bad habits, or they're going to practice a bad habit and put that in either in the fingers if it's piano or in the guitar. What are your experiences with that, Fredrik? That concern?
Yeah, from the beginning, we are doing those lessons ourselves. So that's me. They will look at back home. That's their ordinary teacher. And we see them every week, so they can't go so wrong, I think. So if there are some bad fingers on the piano, for example, you could change that next lesson you have next week. So I think that's important. This is an extended time to learn from your actual teacher. That's not only the 20 or 30 minutes. You see them every week. This is you could have the teacher with you back home through this video lesson. So I think that's really important, that you have a good content, a good material to work from. And in my case, we started with the DVDs, and later on we did several different courses that we put up on the web. So I know exactly what's in the next lesson. And we could reuse this content for lots of students. We don't have to do a new film every time, so that's also good.
So if we got some teachers now saying, oh, that's interesting, I want to try this out. Do you got some good suggestions? So you say, well, good material. When they start doing a video here, what should they keep in mind when they start doing some of these videos that they could send or share with their students? Do you got some suggestions that can help them out?
If you want to try this method, and I could talk about this for hours because it's super interesting and it works really well for us in the music services. But I think it's an important thing is to do short lessons and one subject at a time. For example, just add one thing and do a short lesson, max 5 minutes, I should say. It's better to have like 3 or 4 short lessons than one long one. So I think that's quite important. And as a teacher, you should know where the question will be later on, and you could focus on that when you do the lesson, of course. So yeah, you have the experience and you know what part is quite difficult or easy, and you could dive into those areas directly during the lesson.
Really interesting. And I guess that is also pretty much also follows up why students shouldn't just go on YouTube and try these things out. It needs to be kind of trusted by a teacher, showing them, well, here, specific, this would be good for you, and you need to be aware of these things. And the teacher also has, based on their experience, as you say, know what questions they're going to be raised. So this is really, I guess it's important to emphasize that this is in combination always with a classroom, or sometimes currently, as it's needed, an online tuition with a teacher real time. Yeah,
exactly. And that's really important. You see the students every week as usual, or if it's Corona, you will have the video chat up and running. But this is a way to really use the internet in a good way that you couldn't do before. So you need some kind of learning management system, and that's really benefits the way we teach. And I also think that's developing how we teach and taking us into the next step, that we use the internet in a way we like, that helps us to do good tuitions.
And as you're saying, that's
really important.
How young people often learn now. They have a task, and then they actually might start Googling the question before they start thinking. So it's the native digitals compared to the ones, or the more older generations like you and I, but that are trying to follow up with young people. But to keep track with them, we need to follow up and think about in new ways of teaching, like you are introducing here.
Yeah. And I think this is also a solution of the old question about many students or less students with high quality. I think when you use a method like the flipped classroom, it's both quality and quantity. So I went from having 2 students to 4 students in the same time every week, but we moved farther on every semester, and we played more drums, and they learned more every semester, because we have these video lessons they could watch from home, and that's really, really important. And so I think that's another aspect that's really important to develop how we're teaching.
Now we have a lot of heads of music that are really listening to, we can have twice as many students at the same time. but that quality and the same, that you can actually do more tuition at the same time. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. With a really good quality, and that's the most important thing, of course. That's how could you do this with a good quality? And I have worked with this method for 10 years now, and I'm really pleased. The parents are pleased, and of course the students are really happy to quickly move forward and learn to play more. And my goal as a drum teacher is that they should spend as much time as they can behind the drums and be a good drummer, if they want to, and that's the goal, of course. So if they could watch my lessons every day, how much they want, that's of course something that's really, really good and helps us move forward really quick.
Perfect. I think that's coverage very good. And in the end of the day, we want more music. That's what it's all about. So, Fred, thank you so much for taking the time to give us a little peek into this interesting world of a flipped classroom. And I know we could talk on for hours about this. We'll get back. We'll do a webinar where we're going to have Fredrik join us as a guest again. It's probably going to be mid-April, so we'll send that out in our social media. Looking forward to that, Fredrik, where we can dive more into these consideration and teaching methods and lots of other interesting stuff. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and see you later.
Look forward to it. Bye-bye, Fredrik.
Bye.
Great. So that was a flipped classroom. And if I can get just my... here we go. So just to follow up quickly. Now, I know this is in Swedish, but instead of it's going from the school and then you go home and practice on what they said in the school where you didn't really listen, you can actually have a really, really good digital. Because of the digitalization, you can have some good tuition movies here. And then when you get to school, then you already know a lot of things, and things can be much more inspiring and interesting. And I think that what Fredrik said, it also inspires and motivates the student to actually practice more, and they're more happy about things, and perhaps the teaching work gets a little bit more interesting as well. I think that's really, really interesting. So, but now, we need to move on, and we'll get back to this, as I promised, the teaching methods and considerations you need to have when you're teaching online, but also some of the possibilities in the future. How can the whole digitalization that students, as well as we as teachers in music schools, art schools, have gone through the corona, and so we've been forced into, how can we use that in the future? But now, looking a bit back as well, we are going to go to the UK, where we're going to hopefully have Ali. I'm looking on Dan. I hope Ali is there. Now, Ali's done and there she is. Hello, Ali, and welcome here to our webinar. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Ali, you're one of the co-writers of an interesting article in Cambridge, and I think you know so much of what happened going on in the UK. We've been in the UK SpeedAdmin for about 4 years now, and it's really a very, very interesting country because you do things very differently from Scandinavian music schools. So that's why it's really interesting to have a peek on what you do. You're very much in schools, where we're more after school activities. You do both, I know, in the UK. That's just a quick introduction for all our Scandinavian viewers. But now I'll leave it to you to talk about some of the experience if you had, and just to dive in. I can say everybody can read the article. We'll share that on our social media, by the way, here after the webinar. But I'll leave the word with you now, Ali.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thomas, I've just sent you some slides because I can't see the share icon coming up on my...
Just one second.
Somebody's just perhaps opened it. No. So if you can pull up my slides, and I'm going to do what they do in Britain at 5 o'clock every evening when the Prime Minister or one of his sidekicks appears on the television and says, "Next slide, please." Yeah. So if you don't mind, that would be
definitely absolutely great. I'll just download this so you can go ahead and talk.
So yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm co-editor of the British Journal of Music Education with Professor Martin Fawtley, and I'm sure that people from the UK, we've probably come across each other before, but I haven't yet, as I've only just joined the meeting, seen who's in here. And the article that Martin and I wrote was a second article, really, to follow up from an editorial that we had earlier in the year. So as the editor...
I got it should be in just a sec, then I got your slides here. Instead of me, we'll show the slides. Here we go. So you can say next slide.
Yeah, so as part of our role of the editors, it means that we do get to take a kind of a look at social history as it's emerging in a way. And we've done 2 articles, one in June, looking at music education in a time of pandemic up until that point, and then we've revisited it quite recently, which goes up until January when it was submitted and then was published in March. U-Turns in the Fog, which is the one that I was asked by Bridget to come and talk about today. The unfolding story of the impact of COVID-19 on music education really looks at the series of U-turns from the government last year around school education and GCSEs and assessment, and kind of trying to lay out really chronologically some of the things that happened, not just in England, mostly in England, but also looking at Ireland, Northern Ireland, at least Scotland and Wales. So there's the 2 articles there, and that's currently available to view, whereas obviously usually BJME is locked away in an ivory tower to some extent. So if you can move on the slides for me, please. That's the first article. And then what I thought I would do this morning, because we've got some people here from Scandinavia as well, which is fantastic. I was just going to give you a little bit of context as to where we've got to. And then what Thomas asked me to look at briefly is about kind of pros and cons, really, going forward. So if you can move the slides on for me, a little bit of text from England.
Just 1 second. Ali, we'll just see if we can move around so we get... Yeah, now we get the slide. That's much better. Perfect.
Okay, so in 2011, long before the pandemic, of course, there was a review by Darren Henley done about music education. At the time, we had music services, mostly running instrumental teaching in schools, and far more beyond that, often working in partnership with other organisations. And he said, let's be absolutely clear at the outset, many children in England benefit from an excellent music teaching and from excellent music teachers. In some parts of the country, the opportunities for children to take part in musical activities are immense. However, some children in England do not currently receive an adequate, let alone good music education. So this is going back to 2011, when the idea of the postcode lottery was out there and had been previously. Now, of course, in England, what's different to in some other European countries is that the music education is a core part of our curriculum. So it's there for everybody, music for all, right up to the age of 14, so we'll have a look at in a minute. I was quite interested when I went back to this in preparation for this presentation over the weekend, in what it said about technology, because I remember a bit of controversy at the time about what happened. So recommendation 33, he said, as part of the national plan, which came as part of his recommendations, further work should be taken to develop a national plan for the use of technology in the delivery of music education, and to ensure that the workforce, this is crucial, I think, is up to date with the latest developments. This review should examine how technology could enable better teaching of music. And then he put particularly in rural communities. And so I was thinking in the pandemic, effectively, even the biggest cities turned into rural communities because we're all sitting in our own homes. You've got not going out that much, a lot of children not going to school. And he said, as well as finding ways in which new methods of creating music that embrace technological innovation are taught in the classroom. So this is 10 years ago. So the flag was up saying you need to do something about it. There's possibilities there for technology. Along comes the plan for music education. And the furore that ensued from this was kind of divided that if you could move on to the next slide. Oh, yeah, sorry, no, you got it here. No, go back. Technology is used most effectively when it supports a clearly defined musical outcome. And I think that's the crucial part that we need to unpick really with our modern ears and eyes. So it's used most effectively when it supports a clearly defined musical outcome and adds intrinsic value to teaching and the creative process. And I worry slightly about that at the moment. So I think there's some fantastic use of technology, but we've got a really good opportunity to kind of look at it and decide whether it's being used most effectively to support this or not. So if we could move on. So in 2018, Nick Gibb, the Minister for Education, once again said that high quality arts education shouldn't be the preserve of the elite, but the entitlement of every child, and that music, art and design, drama and dance, so that's all of our creative things really, some of which are national curriculum subjects and some of which got ditched, are included in the national curriculum and compulsory in all maintained schools from the ages of 5 to 14. Of course, the irony of that is most of our secondary schools aren't maintained schools, but the Ofsted, that's our inspectorate regulations, say that they're looking for a curriculum that is at least comparable with the national curriculum. So it's a very strong indication that music should be there. However, 2018 into 2019, again, with some other researchers, the report on the right is mine, the State of the Nation. And there was also lots of consultations on the future of music education, because for about the past 4 years, they've been talking about renewing the National Plan for Music Education. So there's been quite a lot of consultation across the sector. Now, on the right-hand side, you'll see Music Education State of the Nation, this report here, which pulled together 108 references, mostly from the government sources, basically laying out the destruction of music education in many different ways. The complete postcode lottery, which came out of both reports and the report done by the Musicians Union and various others. I've been asked many times about the clarinet and why the clarinet went first off the cliff. And the best answer I can give to that is from what I read on Twitter. And somebody said the viola has already landed in the sea. So there's 2 reports there for you to have a read of. But again, so what I'm really saying is that pre-pandemic, it wasn't all rosy anyway. And then, of course, if you go to the next slide for me, along comes a pandemic, global pandemic. And this is a report from the end of last year from Jodie Underhill at the ISM, which is the Subject Association for Music. They did some data gathering across their members. I think they have about 10,000 members. The report, of course, the heart of the school is missing. If you go to the next slide, I've just pulled out the page of some of the headline findings from it. And it shows that, of course, as we know, not just in music, but perhaps particularly in music, the difficulties we've had in doing what we do. And this, of course, was done in November. So this was kind of what came out in November. So it was relating to the first phase of the pandemic here, I suppose. And I think things have been different in our second lockdown. I'm not to say they've been better or worse, but I do think they've been different as we've learned lessons. But there's some key headlines here, which don't make very pretty reading. So we were already in quite a bad state. And then along comes this. So if we can, we'll move on to the next one. So the Educational Endowment Fund, which is a big charity really, does a lot of educational research in the UK, talks about the digital divide as a key barrier. And this is definitely what I've seen, what I know about from my own teaching, from my own work and from my own settings. The digital divide is a huge barrier. And I think, so I live in a very lovely part of England called Brighton, down on the south coast. We've got quite a few music hubs around us, music education hubs. And if I look at the kind of 5 or 6 closest, they've all done things in different ways. Some of them have kind of picked up music education and gone, right, okay, we've got to find a way of doing things for young people. Others immediately kind of shrunk into, we'll just fellow our staff for a while and we'll see what happens. And then hopefully we'll find a way out of it soon. So just completely different ways of going about things. And of course, that is partly because there's such different models of music education hubs and how they're funded and how they run in the first place. But the digital divide in schools and for instrumental services, whether that be provided by private people or bigger organisations, has been a steep learning curve, I would say. And for children with special educational needs and disability that we should really be thinking about. There's some reports out from a colleague of mine at the University of Sussex, Jackie Shepherd, talking about not just around music, but around everything, how special educational needs and disability has become more of a barrier than ever before for a lot of children accessing education. And also, of course, it's kind of age dependent. It's some children have been going to school, some children have been learning at home. I thought it was quite interesting that young minds, there's been a lot in the UK press recently, and quite rightly, about mental health and well-being and looking forward, and how recovery is a looking forward thing, but picking up on the mental health and well-being issues that we need to deal with as part of recovery. And of course, music has got such a huge potential role to play in that. And the 4 most frequent words used by children or young people in the Young Minds research, age 16 plus, when they talked about their life during lockdown, were boring, repetitive, stressful, and uncertain. So I think, to wrap up, really, if we can kind of move on, a couple of things really. So in Forging a Way Forward, this is what we said at the end of the article. So our article really is quite it factually, shall we say, looks at all of the different U-turns and all of the despair in music education in schools that happened around the exams, and it's a fiasco last summer, and goodness knows what's going to happen this year. And we said it's about forging a way forward, really, and the hashtag Can Do Music, which is the ISM Music Mark and the Music Teachers Association coming together to help people to find creative ways to be able to do music. So we said, in the meantime, the work and compassion of incredible music teachers, and I really believe this, and practitioners across the world, weaving their extraordinary magic through schools and communities, continue to shine through, and their resourcefulness, adaptability, are greatly appreciated by all. And in the most challenging of times, we need to celebrate small successes. In 2021, Can Do Music is music to our collective ears. And as we know, not all superheroes wear capes. Now, in England, for sure, and certainly across the UK, when schools have been partially opened and some children have been learning at home, teachers have been going so above and beyond. They've been providing meals, they've been sending work home, they've been liaising with families, they've been keeping in touch. You know, they have gone so beyond the role of a teacher and a music teacher. And it's really put schools at the heart of communities. So in terms of practical things, I think it's about thinking about the purpose, and does what we're doing with technology promote and enhance the musical learning and the creativity that was talking about? Arguably, I think much of it has been about necessity and about survival, and that's obviously, you know, changing over time. So going from being very reactive to being more proactive, and putting young people's musical learning and interests first and not commercial interests. So working out what it is that they need from music and what they need to do. We've got a hell of a way to go in the UK to get music for all, pandemic or no pandemic. And I think we need to consider that. I think it's been fantastic for the idea of capturing sound. So what happens in music is filling a sonic space, and when it's gone, it's gone. And then every man and his dog has been living their life through a computer and capturing things and recording things. And, you know, you can see musical processes and really exciting things happening, but also children have just been sending work into school. You know, things they've been doing at home have had brilliant examples from kids who've been kind of making up their own things and, you know, just kind of sending them to their teachers, all of those kinds of things, or they've been set tasks of specific things to do or using technologies. But we have to remember that that's not everybody. And the divide is not just digital, and it's potentially getting wider. So we've got to be so aware of that. And I think it's given us new ways of thinking about music, and in particular music education. We've got a long way to claw back. There's a lot of children who've probably fallen off the cliff with their musical learning for the time being. And we need to find ways to kind of entice them back, really. So yes, for me, about going forward is about music for all. If you can just go on to the final slide for me, and the next bit of it. I don't quite know what happened there. Here it is. So this is something from Cornwall. So I would arguably say my favourite bit of England. Sorry to anybody else who's here today. Down in the far tip. And it's got really rural communities, and the clip at the top, which hopefully we'll be able to look at a little bit of in a minute, was the Cornwall County Choirs coming together. And I put, in extraordinary times, extraordinary music education happens. And there are most definitely things to hang on to. There are so many music teachers, including me, that can't wait to just ditch Zoom and get back to being with people and making music with people, doing things with people. Music is a social thing that we do together, and I'll confess I'm one of those. But there are things that will change about everybody's practice, and I think this was an extraordinary thing that happened with the Cornwall County Choirs. So if you could just put on a little bit of this, maybe just skip. It's 5 minutes long, so we'll skip towards about 4 minutes of it, if you don't mind.
Go forward to 4 minutes, you said?
Yeah, forward to 4 minutes. That'd be great.
I'm not sure my sound will go through here.
Okay.
Oh,
right.
no.
Which is a shame, because it is it made me cry the first time I heard it, I'll be quite honest. I think it's absolutely fantastic example of using technology to bring young people together to make music that they owned, that they were proud of, and they were part of. And things happen in different ways, and I think this happened because of that. But thank you for trying with the sound anyway. I think that's all I have to say.
Oh, that was really great, and we'll make sure to, let's see, can I share it here this way, perhaps?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll go back then.
Okay. I think it's nice to finish with some music. I still can't hear it though. Not to worry, the link is there, and I definitely urge. I don't know if there's anybody from Cornwall here today. As I said, I'm not sure who's on the call, but
we'll
just
definitely share the link, no doubt. And is it okay that we share your slides as well?
Yeah, I'll just PDF them for you, and then.
Perfect. There was a lot of really great links there. That was very interesting. Really amazing. I think that's I guess it gets. Yeah, it's a difficult time. It's a crazy time right now, but it also seems like there's really a light, both at the end of the tunnel, but also a light here. With as you said, let me just quickly share my slide, because one of the things I really loved about put that up here. Oh. As you put in. As we know, not all superheroes wear capes. I really love that, and I think also the whole thing about the world is getting perhaps smaller now, because we're all in the same, perhaps not the same boat, but we're at least in the same storm. And I think that has really, as I wrote with Bridget that you mentioned from Music Mark, well, could you help us out? Do you want to talk about, and she introduced you and me. We could just email quickly back and forth and do a Teams meeting. I think a year ago was a Teams meeting. I'm not sure about that and how would that work. I guess boundaries are, although let's not talk about Brexit or anything like that, but although boundaries are showing more and more showing up here and there, the global world is also getting, especially music teachers, and this is also what we hope with this webinar, really to inspire and hopefully bring some experiences from different parts of Northern Europe.
There's something in professional learning too, because I think one of the big pro things about professional learning is that music teaching is such an isolating thing, and in the area where I live, we have a very strong teacher network, which is it's based around our university, and the course that me and my colleague have been running for, he's been there 20 years. I think I was there 12. And so we know a lot of the music teachers in the schools. We know a lot of the instrumental teachers, and we work very closely with the music education hubs. So we used to have a professional meeting, a teach meet once a year that we fundraised for. It was always a brilliant night, and we knew that people would come out for beer and curry. But of course, the first thing that was cancelled in the pandemic in March last year was our teach meet. And we've moved those teach meets online, and we've found new people. Recently, we had a meeting, and we connected up with a music education hub in London. So we had their teachers. There's just no way they could get on a train after school and come down. So stuff like that doesn't rely on this issue of latency. It doesn't really matter around the sound quality so much, and it doesn't matter about the time delays and the mode of learning. We've all learned a lot. We just did our most recent teach meet, and we changed quite a few things about the way we did things. So I think in terms of professional learning, there's a huge amount of things. And there's an example. So our ITE network from the ISM is 52 music education teacher trainers from the UK. Well, been trying to keep that group together for years and years, and we maybe met once every other year in London. We now have really thriving meetings, and we've got our first conference for England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales on Friday, with 200 and something students. We would never even thought about it.
No.
So these opportunities are there. One of the things that's being presented, actually, I think in the last session, is just a look at a project which has happened between music education teaching students in Aberdeen and somewhere in Australia. I'm not quite sure where it was because it wasn't my project. But again, and this was a musical collaboration which they put together of what's going on in Aberdeen, what's going on there. And it's another thing about kind of collecting social history and using music in that way. But actually, it was set as a technology task, so it's about collaborating using technology. And again, so there is absolute magic that's come out of this. But I worry that we all get too excited about that, and we forget about our aspiration in England, at least, of music for all and how it should be for everybody. And the divide that we have is just worrying.
There's no doubt. It's a bit dangerous to think that technical is just that's going to be the quick fix and fix everything. Now we can do online education, then we can cover everything in the rural areas. We can have little robots sit and do the online tuition. So no, you're absolutely right.
Education is to so many people. It's not what children probably want mostly. On a day-to-day, they can have it weaving through their school life. Then fantastic. They can be there in person. it's a physical thing. Music makes you feel, the aesthetic thing. We forget about it so often. And so, yes, I think it's fantastic we're talking about technology, but not at the expense. We have to talk about them in tandem, I think. So.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about all of this, Ali. It's really interesting discussion. I hope we can. It's okay that we invite you in again at a later time for another webinar where we're going to have a panel and hopefully some discussions across UK, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, how they've all coped, but also some of the challenges going forward. Because as you state here, there's lots of possibilities. Magic is happening, and we can grab some of those opportunities. But we also need to make sure that we balance this on getting the quality in the music tuition and not thinking that there's any quick fixes here.
Definitely. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time, Ali, and thank you for sharing all of these information with us. Talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye bye, Ali. Amazing and really interesting to hear what's going on in the UK. We'll of course share these links both from the Cornwall choir as well as the Can Do music. I could say there's lots of really interesting material in there, lots of interesting reading on this website, and also a quick thanks to Music Mark and Bridget there who helped us set up the having Ali here on the online webinar. So that's great how technology can lift and do, the networking. Now we are going back to Denmark, and we are going to be talking to Lars Ole Vestergaard, who is the head of the music school in Aarhus, which is the second biggest city here in Denmark. And they have a really interesting project going on called Musik til Randen, or in English we translate it into Music to the Edge. And there are different music schools in there, and Lars Ole is going to talk much more about it. But if we could just borrow the slide again. What's been interesting here is that they've gone through together with now Ali spoke a little bit about this rural being aware about the getting education out into rural areas, and you got things like Ringkøbing here, a city in Denmark, which is huge, the biggest council or municipality in Denmark area-wise, but definitely not people-wise. So there's lots of challenges there getting it out in the rural areas. If we go to Norway and Sweden, it's even bigger challenges. So they have started a really interesting project. And now let's hear if we've got Lars Ole on the line. He can introduce us to what they've been working on. These are all the names of the music schools or culture schools that have gone together and are working on this project called Music to the Edge. That will bring more education out based on some of the experiences from the COVID-19. And I think Lars Ole is on the line. Here is. Yes, hello, Lars Ole, and welcome to the webinar. And thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. I shortly just introduced your project, Music to the Edge, but I think I'm going to leave the screen to you, and you take it away.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you for participating. It's been very interesting to listen to all the nice things going on, and I've noticed some of the lines coming up, and what I noticed was that the man from Sweden said, play more, talk less. We say play more, travel less. And that is what one of the things we have learned in the COVID-19 time, that we are able to reach more people without making them travel a lot. And we got the idea that we'd try to make some teaching in some of the suburbs, and also in the areas that's very difficult for the children to participate in special arrangements. For instance, at the islands of Denmark, it's very difficult for the kids to get music teaching. So we tried to make some programs for the kids, and we asked for some money from the region, from the council, and we got some money. And now we have 5 municipalities working very hard to make a network where we try to investigate new forms of meeting. And of course, flipped classroom, as we heard from Sweden, is a very basic way of doing things, because we are very interested in the meetings, of course, the physical meetings, but not every week, maybe once in a month, maybe 2 times in a half a year. And then they work together on the internet. And it also gives opportunities to make more rare instruments to be developed, because you can bring people with bassoons or with, for instance, oboe or maybe clarinet together in groups across the borders of the municipalities. In Denmark, we have a very strong border around the municipalities because cultural schools all belongs to the municipality and are very looked into the own municipality. But with this project, we are able to bring the music further and bring that across the municipalities and even maybe across the borders. We have some ideas that some of the teaching could go abroad and could go out worldwide, actually. We have seen a special, we have had some very big success with what we call the Sangskattekisten, which is some small cartoons with old traditional Danish folk songs, children's songs. And it has been viewed all over the world for more than 100 million times. And that shows us that we have an audience, not only in our own municipality, but we can also reach people out there. And we have been asked to make some music teaching for the kids sitting around and watching the movies, trying to get them more physical, working with instruments and with singing. So we are really interested in opening up and sharing what we know about how to teach online. And in this project, we also try to find out new platforms where we, as teachers and as leaders, can meet and share documents, share files, share videos, and it gives us some challenges. I know that in SpeedAdmin, you are working very hard to bring the possibility that we could talk and share documents and files and speeches across the one municipality. And even when we use the Teams as a platform, it still gives us a lot of challenges just to work together. And all this is a kind of investigation and also pushes on the developing new ways of teaching. And if we do it right, I think we could reach even more people, not only geographical, but also social, and those who have difficulties by getting into the center of town where they need to come to have the special teaching. I think we will be able to reach much more people with good teaching if we develop all the things we are using right now and continue working on this to be a better municipality, art school for more people, even for all people. It also gives us the opportunity to work together with the public schools. They can also attend classes online. And right now, of course, it's a great advantage because we're not allowed to enter the public school because of the COVID-19. But even after this, I think this has a very big possibility to be a good and nice success for everybody. So we work hard on this, and we will like to share all our investigations with all of you. And I hope that we can find new ways so more people can attend music lessons easily from their home and get new friends across the borders, even if the borders are geographical or social. So that's the idea of the music at the edge.
Thank you so much, Lars Ole. I think it's a really interesting project, and I think it's very. I'm just a bit curious. Where did this start before the lockdowns, or was it more when you're in the lockdown? Did you suddenly see the possibilities? Was it the situation that we were forced into that saw you or gave you these ideas?
Well, the particular project here, Music to the Edge, was developed during the COVID-19. But the ideas of bringing people together online was started already before. But of course, this was a big push to all of this online teaching when we had to teach online. And then there was some money put out from the region to try to develop new ideas that we have discovered during the COVID-19. And of course, we want to take part of this new investigation. And And then we got the money, and that helped us bring the project good from the start. So now we're on the way, and looking forward to see what's going on when we teach more like this. And we also see it as a very big possibility for teachers to try to develop new ways and get inspired from each other. We have already had some courses across municipality borders where the teachers have been meeting and have had courses, workshops in how to teach online. We have also tried to learn from America, where we had a workshop with an American drum teacher in Texas. He told us how they did in America, and we got new ideas. So we try to find new ways and to share it and to be better teachers using the digital platforms.
I think it really shows how there are so many possibilities in this, and how you could say that the sky's the limit, or the internet at least is the limit, because now suddenly you don't have just the people that you can visit in your car. You got everybody out there, and suddenly you're reaching out to somebody in America, or they could be reaching out to you. I think it's also interesting what you're saying about as you did already pre-COVID with the Sangskattekisten, or the singing treasure box, which I can really recommend for everybody. Go into the website of Aarhus Musikskole, and there you can find a link. My 5-year-old son he's crazy about that, and had been using it since he was 2 years old. So it's really great. But there's also some things about quality but what have been both in pre-COVID and now under, and also in the future. What do you see as being the biggest challenges, perhaps technical wise?
I think it's our mindset, because we are very keen on taking care of the students that we have normally physically, and we want to take care that they also get the beautiful digital teaching, those who we know about. So try to open up and teach people we don't know and we haven't met physically is quite a big challenge. And even streaming teaching from your own working place or from the music school is a kind of border breaking for many people. So this, to open up and to share your knowledge, share your teaching with somebody that you don't know, and even put it out in the space, is quite frightening for many people. And of course, you're very, I think as a teacher, you're often very dedicated, you're very, how do you say it, you're very interested in making it very good, and very critical on your own teaching. And if you know that somebody are watching you, and even it could be recorded, then you're very scared about it. So the sharing idea, the fear of sharing is one of the things that we should work with. And how can we make the teachers more safe, and how can we make them more confident with using the tools? And then, of course, the tools is also a problem, because many music schools, mine too, doesn't equip all the teachers with the necessary equipment to work at home. So we try to make something in the music school, more studios in the music school. And I think in the future, we would have more than one place in the music school where we can transmit teaching. That would be necessary for us. And also try to give the necessities to the teachers that they could bring home, so they can teach from home if they are not allowed to come into the music school.
Great. I think that's really interesting about that mindset. And as a teacher, you're a bit concerned because suddenly now I go on screen, it's being recorded, it's going to be out there somehow, and people can review it. And of course, that's the whole idea, it's the strength, but it's also where you could feel a little bit scared about sharing it. I can really understand what you're saying there. It makes really good sense. I think that would be a great idea to put that into one of our webinars about preparing the mindset there, getting that into. Have a chat about that. Lars Ole, if we could go into a time travel, just really short, and I know I'm putting you here on the spot, but 5 years from now, how do you see Aarhus Musikskole and Music on the Edge? Where has that gone? How have COVID and what we experienced the last year, how have that shaped your music service?
Well, I hope it has been possible for us to develop more teaching digitally to more people. And of course, we also still works very physically because, of course, it's necessary to have things going on in real. So you can sit together, you can touch each other, you can find the ways of using the right reed on the clarinet, and you can talk about more physical things that's very difficult when you have it on the digital platforms. But I hope really that we have a lot of teachers working not only in Aarhus municipality, but in the region or even in the nation and in the world, because there's a demand of good teaching. And we have the teachers, many good teachers are sitting and are only teaching 50 students a week. And if they opened up and we had the possibilities, we probably could teach even much more people and giving the opportunity to have more music to even more people. And then, of course, we could, we have to work with the flipped learning, the meetings, the physical meetings. And we have to work with how to reach out to more and then bring groups together. For instance, in the weekend, we have a Saturday morning with students playing the clarinet from the whole region coming to Aarhus or to Grenaa or another place, having a nice day with the clarinet, and they could probably be 50. We could make that 2 or 3 times in the autumn and 2 or 3 times in the spring. And then they have a community of players who share the same passion. I think the digital platform could support this and even help us to keep in contact during the times we're not meeting. Also the students in between.
And I guess that community that, you know, all music services normally have, or music schools have great local communities, but that if we can bring that community out and make it a wider online community, especially for those, as you mentioned, the bassoons or oboe players, those that are a bit more under pressure, that we don't have that many of, and that are really searching for somebody that can to share their thoughts with. I think that was really interesting.
We also work on the how to bring the small children away from the computer. You know, now we have this song treasure box, Sangskattekisten. One of the biggest targets for us right now is to try to help the families to use all the beautiful songs that now is a kind of canon, a common knowledge, how to use these songs in the daily life of the family. How can you sing the songs while you're eating your food or washing your hands or brushing your teeth? All these songs could be part of your daily life. And how could we teach and help the parents to use the songs more actively instead of just watching in the screen? That's a very big target for us, and we hope we could get some funding for new investigations in that direction. We know there's a big demand of it.
That's really interesting, because I guess that's where music really gets to life, where it's not something that you just look on a screen, but you actually start living it, you start singing it yourself, start using it and being in it. I think very, very interesting perspective there as well. Well, Lars Ole, I hope that time is running out, and I hope it's okay if we could invite you in for a webinar another time in a panel discussion, and that would be really, really great. But thank you so much for sharing some of your thoughts and ideas, and good luck with Music on the Ed. We are really excited to be able to follow it on the line, and we'll hope that we can share some of the information that you will be finding out.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lars Ole. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Great. So now, really interesting. Thank you again to Lars Ole. And again, I just want to mention their website, where if you want to go to Sangskattekisten, it's on their first page, where you can follow that link to that part. And then with the whole project Music to the Edge, we're excited about being somewhat part of it. Hopefully there's going to be in some of the SpeedAdmin in that project. So we're excited about that project and what's going to happen with that. Now it's time for some questions. If there's any questions in the chat, Dan, do we have any questions that we need to try to answer on the chat, or is everybody happy?
Yeah, if you're looking on, sorry, now the mic is on. If you're looking on the amount of questions, we should be fairly safe.
Yeah,
but please be free. Write something in the chat if you have questions, comments. Maybe you have ideas for future content on webinars. You are most welcome to write it in the chat as well.
Please do. And also, you're welcome to write us on our mail address. Perhaps you can share my screen shortly again.
I can do that for sure.
Yeah. So some of the next webinars, as we mentioned, 8th of April, it's going to be 11 a.m. Danish, Swedish, Norwegian time, and 10 o'clock UK time on the 8th of April. We'll put out the link in SpeedAdmin, of course, and on our social media. So please follow our social media. We'll be sharing all of the links from today's webinar, all of the PowerPoints. We'll be sharing that through the social medias and also within SpeedAdmin, of course. So if you are using SpeedAdmin, you can find it all in there at some point. Then we're going to have online teaching methods, as some of the Fredrik was talking about, and other guests there. That's going to be a little bit later in April. We don't have the date ready yet, but yes, again, if you follow us on social media, you can't avoid. We'll make sure that we let you know. And then trends and future plans, something that both Ali and Lars Ole was talking into. We're hoping there to plan a panel discussion throughout some of the Northern Europe countries, discussion about where's all of this bringing the music service and music schools, music arts schools into the future. And as Dan mentioned, please, if you have any ideas, write in the chat or email us on info@speedadmin.com.
Actually, we have got one question twice. We have got it before also, but the question is it or will it be possible to upload sound or video directly in the study plan inside of SpeedAdmin? It's for sure something we are working on. We have got the wish before, and as both being musical teachers, Thomas and I, we know that's the way you are thinking in the real life environment of teaching. So for sure we will put +1 on the wishing list for that feature.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And of course today we haven't talked much about SpeedAdmin and the functionalities in SpeedAdmin. That's kind of been on purpose. We wanted this to be not about the product SpeedAdmin, but more about celebrating inspiration and kind of get some feedback from a lot of our guests, but also hopefully giving some feedback to you guys to inspire you and work on. And as Ali said, not all superheroes wear capes. This is a big shout out to all of you music teachers out there that's done such a big work with online tuition the last year actually now. And hopefully you can you're not completely tired of that screen. Hopefully you can see some of the possibilities that this will bring you. And then for next time, Dan, we need to make sure that we shop around, because when I'm looking you real, I'm looking away from you. So we need to great. No other questions? No? Well, if you missed anything, if you want to re-see this, or you can of course see that in SpeedAdmin if you have a SpeedAdmin account, or you can go to our YouTube channel where you can find it as well as a recording. And I just want to give a huge shout out to Dan, who made it possible that we can actually have all these guests come in. And it seemed like, that's easy, that's a seamless thing. But Dan was really doing some magic today. So thank you so much for all the work there, Dan. It's been amazing being here. My first time as kind of a news anchor. So I could get used to this. This is really nice. And a huge thanks to all of our guests. Mads from Haderslev and Aabenraa Music School. Fredrik from PlayAlong in Sweden. Ali in the UK will share her slides as well as that great video from Cornwall Choir. And Lars Ole from Aarhus Music School and Music on the Edge. Thank all of you so much, and thank all of you that has been participating or are viewing this webinar afterwards. Did I forget anything, Dan?
No, I don't think so. We have got some questions running in right now, actually. And I think those would be embedded in future webinars. It's questions about telling more about the video option within SpeedAdmin. There's questions about, can students upload a sound file? We have talked about that. Then there are some kind people saying thank you for a great webinar. And we are so thankful on having you as listeners and viewers. see you so much forward to see you in the future also.
And we want to
Future
see you
webinars.
again. Can you go back on screen? Yeah.
Maybe I can.
There you are.
Yeah.
Great. But definitely we'll, and perhaps it's a webinar just covering the study plan, the app, things like that will probably also soon come up if that's, you're always welcome to write us with any suggestions or ideas, things that you'd like us to bring up into a webinar or just anything else like that.
Yeah. And Mads is asking for a separate drum channel with some chops in it. Yeah, Mads, you can participate in that as well.
We'll do a global SpeedAdmin drum forum, no doubt about it.
Sure, we will.
Great. Well, thank you all again so much for participating. Looking forward to the next webinars. Join us the 8th of April at 11 a.m. or in the morning. Looking forward to hopefully seeing a lot of you there. And otherwise, you can revisit the recording. We're waving. Wave, Dan.
We're waving.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.